Thank you very much for that. I think that was a wonderful way to start the meeting, so thank you. Now, the public participation, we don't have any public forum presentations, but we do have a deputation by appointment, and I'd like to invite Jan Burney to speak to the Council regarding item 16, Regenerate Christchurch Board Letter of Advice on Residential Red Zone. Welcome, Jan. Good to see you.
I'm addressing the item 16 Regenerate Christchurch Board Letter of Advice on the Residential Red Zone. Good morning to the Chairperson, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the Chair and speak to the elected members of the Council on this consequential item in your agenda. It's been quite a difficult deputation to contemplate from the content of the Regenerate Christchurch letter and the Council report. I endorse the Regenerate Christchurch letter to the Mayor and to the Council and to the Minister. However, I'm having difficulty endorsing the Council approach and the report. The Christchurch City Council draft strategic framework binds together the strands of each mat to join together with the seams of respect and reciprocity. How do we join these together? From your report, it's extremely difficult. My home is Brooklands, that is my community. I live in Christchurch, among friends, family and neighbours. The Christchurch City Council draft strategic framework states Christchurch is a city of opportunity for all. That includes the red zone. Principles include promoting equity, valuing diversity and fostering inclusion, ensuring diversity of interests of our communities across the city and districts that are reflected in the decision making, taking an intergenerational approach to sustainable development, prioritising social, economic and cultural well-being of people and communities, the quality of the environment now and in the future, understanding respect, and your strategic priorities state enabling active and connected communities to their own future. I'd like to thank Regenerate Christchurch for their letter to the Mayor and Associate Minister Williams. In particular, I'd like to thank Regenerate Christchurch for the acknowledgement in point 4 of the legacy effects of the red zoning policy has had upon the affected people and communities. Regenerate Christchurch have listened to us, and that is important. Point 4 states the red zoning of these areas and subsequent Crown process reflect the significant damage and or increase to life to risk resulting from the Canterbury earthquake sequence. While an important and necessary social policy response to environmental conditions, in many cases the outcome of the red zoning disconnected communities from these areas, created an uncertainty regarding their future use and status and relationship to Christchurch and its people. It's an important statement to move forward with, extremely important to consider. Point 5 of the letter addresses resolving as far as possible any remaining uncertainty in these areas as an important step for ongoing recovery. Point 33 considers there is considerable merit in partnering with the Council to undertake preliminary engagement with Brooklands community as a matter of priority. And point 34 considers partnered community engagement which would assist the community in identifying realistic outcomes which improve wellbeing and resilience. Damage to the Brooklands was a consequence of earthquakes. No earthquake remediation or recovery program has been initiated, and after almost 10 years. A definition of a matter of priority is something that must be dealt with immediately before dealing with anything else. Regenerate Christchurch has asked for a priority for the earthquake red-zoned Brooklands. Subsequent policy, planning and strategy of the Christchurch City Council have exacerbated the effects. Currently under appeal in the Environment Court are some of those policy, planning and strategy effects, and they affect Brooklands directly. I note in the agenda yesterday, Three Waters report with regards to the comprehensive stormwater network discharge, CRC 190445. They are saying in the next months we'll concentrate on the following subjects. We will seek to reach an agreement with Environment Canterbury on settlement of the CSNCD appeal. I submitted to that, asking the court to amend the conditions of consent in a way which we have agreed with Environment Canterbury, and responding to any questions from the court before the court decides whether to approve the settlement. Under engagement principles, communities should not be engaged to obtain consensus or agreement about predetermined positions. In such instances, it is not engagement that is occurring, but rather a public relations exercise where information is distributed. Community engagement involves a decision that has yet to be made, over which the community have some influence. Schedule 3 of the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Act, the description of the red zone, amongst others, is for the purpose of subpart 1, subpart 2. The Christchurch residential red zone comprises of all land in the Christchurch district in respect of which the Crown made an offer to purchase. That is the definition of the red zone, an offer to purchase. There is no legal planning status. The red zone is an area where a voluntary offer to purchase was initiated. The Land Use Recovery Plan states it does not include areas known as the red zones. The future use of the land in the areas known as residential will be addressed through the Residential Red Zone Program. The Specific Purpose Flatland Recovery Zone, Section 32, the Christchurch District Plan, is a policy direction in the District Plan. The zoning does not presuppose the future use of land within the zone, and it is a holding zone. We've been on hold for many, many, many years. It cannot continue. On 9th of May, I made a deputation to the council requesting a meeting with Regenerate Christchurch to set up a meeting for Brooklands Red Zone community to plan a way forward. I subsequently engaged with a series of meetings with Regenerate Christchurch and also a joint meeting with Regen and the Mayor's Office in September. We discussed the initial work which has commenced, including that a preliminary assessment by Regen of the existing provisions in the plan as they relate to Brooklands, that a meeting with officials from Christchurch City Council to discuss the preliminary assessment in order to discuss any potential issues identified as a result of that assessment, and the agreement with officials from Christchurch City Council as key matters that need to be considered in order to determine the most appropriate mechanisms to addressing the issues, including the powers in the Christchurch Regeneration Act. From the summary of their meeting, I asked Regeneration for the existing provisions in the Christchurch plan as they relate to Brooklands be made available to me. As there has been a meeting with officials from Christchurch City Council to discuss a preliminary assessment in order to identify and discuss potential issues identified as a result of this assessment, it would be reasonable for the identified issues to be provided to me along with the preliminary assessment. A list of the key agreed matters that need to be considered. That clearly any mechanisms for the use of powers in the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Act will be dependent upon the issues and agreed key matters. However, identifying preparatory instruments, tools, as well as sections within the Greater Christchurch Regeneration Act would assist any discussions. The purpose of the Council report is to receive and consider a letter of advice from the Board of Regenerate Christchurch. The Council goes on to consider the advice and the possibility of these functions that could be used for Brooklands. The letter recommends that as a matter of priority, engagement is initiated with Brooklands Red Zone community. The Council report then goes on to outline a rather sustained and long hazard program, taking not even starting before the mid of the year and then progressing over probably more than 5 years. I'm not accepting that. I refuse to accept that. I will not accept it, and it's not going to happen. We won't participate in that sort of program anymore. We have waited 10 years. It is enough. The report is vaguely disrespectful to our community. I've got a note, you have to be joking here. The coastal hazards are the coastal hazards. We had an earthquake, and I've said it before to the council, community boards, members of staff, deal with the earthquake issues. And then I'll talk about the hazards. I've said it to Environment Canterbury, deal with the earthquake issues and then we'll deal with the hazards. We weren't in the high hazard zone before the earthquakes, nor were we in the flood ponding area. We were in the flood management area. We're being annihilated everywhere we look. I'm not going to accept it. In section 32 of this, your Christchurch City Council specific purpose flatland recovery zone, well-being was conspicuously struck out throughout the provisions and the document. It says the provisions may result in an area which has low residential amenity, that the section 32 objective states a risk of acting to create a flatland recovery zone is that certainty is not provided to landowners in relation to land use and expectations of the zone in the future, and there will be temporary reduction in the scope of activities that can be undertaken. Objected 4.9.3.2 in the section 32 of the SPFLZ. It is the protection of the flatland recovery zone may reduce the ability to use private land in a way which the owner would prefer. This is balanced against the opportunity to achieve community benefits, including resilience, noting that this will be for a temporary period as it is a holding zone. 10 years is not temporary.
Jen,
I know I'm running out of time.
You have, but you know, I'm kind of really respectful of the position that you're in, and the you know, it's been one hell of a journey, and I actually hadn't, until you spoke, really connected with the sort of adding insult to injury of having a process begin essentially on the 10th anniversary of the earthquake that actually did the damage in Brooklyn. So
I'm not doing it. I won't do it.
I can.
My community won't
do it. I can totally get that. We're going to deal with the petition next. That's a 5-minute presentation, so I would invite you to stay. I am going to go on to item 16. I mean, this is not a good process because deputations are time limited, so I am going to have to wind it up there.
That's fine.
But I would invite you to stay for the debate. I actually would like you to give a copy of your presentation to staff so that they can at least run me off a copy. I know that other councillors probably want a copy as well. Yeah, everyone's nodding.
Would you like one now? I can actually send one via email afterwards, or I can go out and do it now. I should be able to do it on my phone.
If you could do it on your phone, that'd be better. That would be better.
No, I haven't put it on email.
Okay,
sorry.
well that's fine. Just if you
have one copy, you can copy.
Yeah, we'll take a copy and get it distributed to people, and then afterwards, when you get home, you could just send it through. That would be great.
That's excellent.
But thank you for that. And I'm breaking my own rules here. But if we were to start an early engagement with the community, would that be something, if straight in the new year, if we just start an exploratory pre-engagement, you know, just so that we can be out there talking to the community and getting a sense of where people want to go? Because, I mean, this is a really difficult area. This was not a decision that council made. We didn't red zone people's properties. Central government did. I mean, when I was the MP for your area, I asked the council for all of its documentation on what it had fed into the red zoning decisions. Nothing. I could find nothing, you know. So I'm kind of really with you, and I want to reset how we deal with the next phase, because what happens in the next phase is really important to Brooklands.
It is.
And it has been the last cab off the rank. For a lot of reasons. The focus of Regen Christchurch necessarily had to be the Otakaro Avon River Corridor, and they've produced an excellent regeneration plan. What we're trying to understand in the short time that they have left, what it is that they might need by way, or we might need by way of tools that they hold exclusively to assist the next stage in that journey. But I'm very mindful that even from today, I don't really have a clear understanding of what it is that the residents who remain, not all who were red zoned, but there are green zoned and they sit in the margins. Are there options around the margins that could actually make a real community stay a real community, even at this late stage in the piece? So I'd like to be able to explore those options, but would you be willing to work with such an approach?
Yes, I have. I've talked with Ivan from Regenerate Christchurch, and we mooted a 25th of January meeting,
Right.
if it could be. But yeah, I agree, because some of the wider issues are far too involved for the community to comprehend.
Yeah.
So they need an opportunity to have their say,
Yeah.
rather than just me. I worked with all of those wider issues with the
Yeah.
with the waterways, etc.
I know.
And I'm well aware of the issues, but explaining it, and I do explain it to them, but they just can't comprehend it. It's too
I know,
much.
and
So,
it's been a massive
yeah.
shock, really, and people who have experienced trauma related to shock often find it hard to engage in decision making. And what I'm trying to say is, can we make that easy, and will you help us to do so?
Oh well, and because I gave the document, I give every document,
Yeah.
whatever, to the people of Brooklands, the Green Zone as well, and asked for feedback, and no one came back on any feedback with them.
Yeah.
I sought it, and they clearly could not comprehend
No.
what the council were putting forward here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Really
thanks.
appreciate you coming.
Thanks for the extra
Thank
time.
you. Joe Hayes, please come forward. Sorry about that. And I mean, I know that you have an interest in this wider area as well, so you might like to stay for the conversation or the discussion that the council will have on the next item on the agenda as well.
Right, thank you.
But